What is up, guys? Welcome to episode, I think we're on episode 15 now of the Inner Alchemy podcast. I'm your host, Sandal Roy. And today we are talking about side chick Sadia. This has been blowing up all over my algorithm. And I want to add a caveat that I'm not making this video to kind of pile on and try and cancel Sadia. I do think that her behavior is really problematic and does need to be called out, and there needs to be some accountability. But I kind of want to comment on this from like the lens of the work that I do, which is, you know, divine union. If you're new to my channel, hello, welcome. I'm an initiated oracle that works in the fields. I use a modality called quantum field work to help my clients align with their highest timeline that is, you know, aligning to their divine mission, their divine union, their divine abundance, just what it is that, you know, God put them here on earth to do. So stick around, watch some more videos if you're new here to find out more about that and how that work can help you. So I want to speak to it from that lens, okay? Because one of the things that's been coming online for me, and my clients will attest to this, especially since I started researching the hidden history of the lost 12 tribes of Israel, which I've been researching for many years, but dove quite deep into after October 7th, is looking at bloodlines and different, you know, our shared kind of family history. And one of the gifts that's been coming online for me is ancestral healing. So I do want to kind of speak to this from a bit of a cultural lens as well, because those of you who know me know that I come from very similar cultural background to Sadia. Not that it's the same by any means, because obviously I'm British Pakistani, she's also British Pakistani. Obviously there are some differences with how we were brought up. She is Muslim, she identifies as Muslim, she seems to come from quite a religious household. My family background was not super religious like that. But I did have quite a strict upbringing. She's kind of spoken to that. So I do want to kind of bring some of that in as well to what we're talking about today. And she still kind of holds on to that. For me, I'm a syncretist, okay? I don't follow any one particular religion. I have been studying a lot of Abrahamic eschatology, i.e. end times prophecy. Abrahamic meaning Judaism, Christianity and Islam, to kind of decode what's happening geopolitically at the moment. And it goes into my work as an oracle that is particularly interested in the mystery school temples of ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia. So that kind of interfaces with my work quite a lot. I am kind of, you know, looking into Islam and things like that. So, and she works in the relationship coaching space. And so my work overlaps with some of that as well. You know, my last podcast episode, I was talking about polarity principles, because polarity is a huge topic that's taught in the dating and relationship space. So we're going to get into it. So if you've not been following this and you don't know the background, I'm not going to be like covering all the background. This is not journalism. I'm going to because, you know, I find that, you know, when I was watching videos about this, I didn't really like having to sit through everybody completely rehashing all the events. So I'm just going to put some links in the description where you can get up to speed on what's been happening. But she's basically been exposed, even though she's like a dating and relationship expert. You know, she teaches people about how to be a high value woman, and she specifically coaches men into how to be a high value man. And it's come out that she has been I don't know if this was now, apparently in 2021, that she was knowingly another man's side piece. So yeah, and this is also personal for me. If you guys have been with me and you saw episode 10, I kind of talked about how I discovered that my previous relationship that I was in before the one I'm in now, I found out that my partner was cheating on me with multiple women who knowingly were side pieces. So yeah, I just want to kind of analyze some of that behavior as well, because we've been talking about it. It's kind of been a theme this month, and we're going to be unpacking some of that Lilithian dark feminine consciousness in my upcoming webinar. The details for that are in the description. So that's why all of this is super, super trending for me right now. These themes and these concepts. So yeah, let's get into it. This blew up because a creator called Goobu2, who is I think he's like a fitness influencer or like some personal, like a fitness coach or something. A lot of his content centers around calling other fitness coaches out for using filters, which I totally get. You know, it's a little bit disingenuous, or it was very disingenuous to be saying, hey guys, you can get a body like mine. And then using using body filters to portray a different body than what they actually have, and misrepresent their results. But he called her out, saying, okay, this is Sadia Khan. She's using this waist filter. I'll see if I can post a little bit of a clip here or a screenshot of the waist filter that she was using for some talk that she was giving. And she's a confidence coach, and she teaches people how to have confidence, yet here she is using a waist filter. I personally just thought that this was quite unnecessary. Like, so what if she uses a waist filter? I really don't know why people were dragging her for that. She openly uses face filters, so why is anyone surprised that she's using a waist filter? She's not a fitness influencer. She's not saying, hey guys, pay me and you can get a waist like mine. Like, are we going to be attacking her for using makeup now, saying that if you were really confident, you wouldn't need to come on camera wearing makeup, you should just show up as you are, right? It's kind of ridiculous. Like, I don't have a problem with filters. I use filters sometimes. I don't have a problem with other people using them. It's not an issue for me. The way I see it is, if you need a filter to feel confident enough to show up on camera, to share your message and your medicine with the world, messages that people need to hear, use the filter. Like, as long as you're not misleading people and saying, like, if you're a cosmetic surgeon and using face filters on your clients and things like that, that would be really deceptive, right? It's not appropriate. Like, for me, obviously, if you guys have been with me for a while, you know I work as a model. Some people find it disingenuous that models use face filters. We're supposed to market ourselves and present ourselves in the best light. So sometimes models will use face filters and Facetune. But what would be disingenuous is if we were using Facetune photos to send to clients as an unfiltered, unedited Polaroid image. Okay, that would be not cool. Sometimes clients, when they're wanting to book you for a shoot or a campaign, want to see how you really look. So they'll ask for raw, unedited images. They'll sometimes even ask for images where that have you no makeup on. Or they'll just ask to meet you in person. So, something like that. If you're doing that, then yeah, that would be unethical. But I think most clients know that models will use like a filter or will retouch their images. So that's why they have Polaroids and why they have castings and video castings and Skype castings, if it's really that important to them. So yeah, I don't know why they were dragging her for using a waist filter. It's really, I don't know. I just thought it was a bit much. But this obviously exploded because she started hitting back at people and like dragging people in the comments and saying really quite appalling, disgusting things. Now, I'll be honest, okay? I'll be perfectly honest. I liked Sadia Khan in the beginning, okay? When she first started blowing up, I was just like, I liked some of the takes that she was making. I didn't agree with everything that she had to say, obviously, but I liked some of the things that she was saying. I like that she was challenging some of the Western feminist narrative, around men and women and how men and women are. So some of those takes, if you've been with me for a while, you know that I have also challenged some of that narrative. So some of the stuff that she was saying, I agreed with. I also liked the fact that she was, very elegant, very articulate. you know, she looks great, she's beautiful, she's a home girl, she's, you know, from Pakistan like me. So I was just like, girl is representing. She's also saying similar things to what I'm saying. But yeah, some of the takes I didn't agree with. Now, I wouldn't sit there and like listen to her all day long. I wasn't like learning from her, okay? She didn't have anything to teach me really, because I'd already kind of moved through that and was like learning from like, you know, initiated oracles into how to do oracle field work. I didn't need to learn psychology or whatever it is that she's teaching, or so she says she's teaching. Obviously we'll get to her credentials in a bit. But I did notice, and I noticed this more recently, that she was really clapping back at her trolls in quite a strong way. Now, I have very nuanced feelings about this, okay? Because I get that it's really hard to put yourself out there, and when you're saying things that might be considered a little bit controversial or people don't like to hear, you will get people clapping back, and sometimes quite aggressively and sometimes quite rudely. I've had that since the start of my time on YouTube. I've had a lot of people clapping back at me and being quite rude and disrespectful, people being misogynistic, people being racist, people saying all kinds of crazy shit, telling me I don't know my stuff, that I'm like laughing at me, mocking me. So I do not suffer fools gladly. If you're rude to me, I will clap back, okay? I won't do it like how she's done it though. I think the way that she's done it is like unhinged, to be quite honest. Like if somebody's disagreeing with me like intellectually on something that I'm saying and they're doing it politely, that's fine. I will have a back and forth. I know not everyone agrees, okay? There's a lot of people in the coaching personal development space who will not tolerate anyone disagreeing with them, okay? Because their level up mindset tells them that they're a gift to humanity, that their teachings are sacred. I mean, some of the teachings that we're bringing to people are like hidden knowledge and things like that, esoteric knowledge that's been hidden from humanity, which requires certain levels of initiation. If you're sharing that stuff out for free and you're getting people talking shit and, you know, talking crazy to you, yeah, you should definitely block them. Obviously on YouTube we can't block people, so you know, so sometimes you just got to clap back at people and tell them that they're not welcome. So I get her clapping back at people because I noticed some people were really rude to her in the comments. So I get that she wants to clap back at people. Obviously it doesn't make her look very professional because she's trying to present herself as this like super articulate, highly professional, accredited clinical psychologist. Or I don't know if she's actually said that she's a clinical psychologist. I've personally never heard her say that, but there's a massive conversation that's happening on other people's channels where they are pulling apart her credentials, which I think it does seem like she has lied about those from what I've seen. I'll put a link to, I think one of the best videos on this was the recent Abba and Preach video, where they didn't just pull apart her credentials, but they also challenged her lies on the side chick recording. Where was I? Sorry, talking about clapping back, right? Obviously if you're the public figure, you have to be able to take a certain amount of trolling, rudeness, backlash. You can't be too sensitive about things like this, but at the same time I don't think that we should be expected to be polite to people who are being rude to us. Like, I will try and intellectually debate with people, and not every coach gives this grace, okay? There was this one coach, okay, that I was friends with on Facebook. I'm not going to mention her name, and she's not that big, so you probably wouldn't know who she was anyway. But she has rules of engagement on her Facebook profile of how you must address her and how to interact with her posts if you don't want to be blocked by her or cussed out, basically. Where she basically says in these rules that her presence is a gift and her transmissions are freely given, and she's not open-minded to considering another point of view. The message is a message, and if you don't agree, just keep it scrolling. Like, don't disagree with her. She's not going to sit there and prove anything to you, and that's valid, okay? She's allowed to have those boundaries, but you can't be expecting that everybody's going to go to your profile and check if you've got rules of engagement on your profile before your profile comes on their feed, okay? Because this is Facebook. Sometimes public posts end up on people's timelines and they weren't even friends with you. So Anyway, I didn't know that she had these rules of engagement, and she'd made some polarity post about how men, this is common in the polarity space. Successful men don't care about what you do for work. They don't care about your success. They don't care about how much money you make. That's not a concern for them. They just care about your radiance, your femininity. There's a common trope in the polarity space, right? And I'm familiar with this kind of lexicon in this belief system. But I didn't agree, because that's not always the case. Like, not all men are like that. Not all men, obviously I get masculine as providership and feminine as receiving, but that's just not how it actually works in practice, because men aren't exclusively masculine and women aren't exclusively feminine. We both have both energies, as I've talked about in multiple videos. So I was just like, actually, I don't think I was that sassy even. I was just like, yeah, I'm familiar with this concept, but in actual real world terms, if you look at statistics, highly educated university educated men in high salary, 6-figure salary jobs statistically tend to also go for women who are highly educated, university educated, high salaried women as well. Like, that's just what the data shows. And she literally cussed me out. She's like, I don't give a fuck what statistics say. Masculine energy is law. Feminine energy is law. This is universal law. I'm familiar with Hermetic philosophy, okay? I'm familiar with universal law, okay? I'm familiar with the 7 Hermetic principles and the principle of gender, which she's basically quoting here and acting like she knows more than me. She doesn't. And I was just like, wow, okay. I'd been perfectly polite to her, and she was just like, you need to go check the rules that are pinned to the top of my Facebook post, and blah blah blah, and basically cussed me out. And I was just like, wow, okay, good luck. Because I just don't think that if you have that kind of attitude where nobody can clap back or disagree with you without getting cussed out, you're not going to grow. You're not going to grow. Your message isn't going to reach people. Maybe not everybody wants that. Maybe some people want to keep more niche. I like being more niche as well. But at the same time, you can disagree with me. Just do so respectfully, and we can have a discussion. We can debate concepts. That's fine. I don't like people coming on my content and schooling me, because when you've got like a private profile, no picture of yourself, I don't know who you are from Adam, I don't know what your area of study is, and you're schooling me like you know something. Like, I don't know who you are. Like, why should I just trust what you say? Like, I'm not when we're going to get to the issue of credentials, okay? I don't think people necessarily need credentials to teach anything, but your work should speak for itself. And if I don't know what your body of work is, if I go to your profile and it's just a private profile, and I don't know what your credentials are either, how do you think you're going to come on my page and school me and educate me about something, thinking that you know something when you don't? And a lot of the time it is just repeating basically like official consensus on something, okay? But that's not actually based in universal law, for example, okay? Just giving an example. I know y'all who are truth seekers and deep divers who are unearthing hidden mysteries and unlocking different truths you're trying to bring to the public. You've dealt with this, where people are like, well, actually... And I get why this girl that I'm talking about, this coach in particular, responded so strongly, because I was just like, well, official consensus is this, so what you're saying is not true. And she's just like, well, universal law is in nature. I'm like, yeah, but that applies to masculine energy. Women also have masculine energy. Men have feminine energy as well. So therefore, yes, they do also care about how much you, as a woman, how successful you are, how much money you're also bringing to the household. Okay? Yes, men like being providers, and we can have a conversation about whether men prefer being providers rather than, needing a successful boss babe woman. But generally, statistics are showing that they do also like a woman who's equally on their level. So maybe because men are too feminine nowadays, as a lot of people in the polarity space like to think, and women are too masculine, I don't know, like we can have a discussion about that. But she wasn't open to a discussion, you know, and that's fine, that's her boundary. But you're going to piss a lot of people off if you're just chewing people out. And the way that Sadia responded to her trolls was disgusting. Like, she was saying things like, you're a midget, you look like you're into animal porn. And she was just like, oh, sis has got like a face filter and a yeast infection telling me about myself. It's just like, girl, you also use face filters. Like, are you projecting? Like, you also have a yeast. No shame if you do. Hey, we're all girls here. Okay, we know what happens downstairs. Let's not shame each other for stuff like that. That's absolutely vile that she was acting like that. And yeah, I was just like, this girl is acting like she was severely bullied as a child and is like now, you know, learning to stand up for herself. And you know, when I was watching videos and research for this, she did actually say I think in the Abba and Preach interview that she was severely bullied. And so I was just like, yeah, that tracks. And I'm glad that my intuition was on point with that, because it's definitely felt like she's like standing up for her inner child. And these trolls are representing like every schoolyard bully that she ever experienced. And she must have been through some really dark shit to be reacting the way she's reacting, because the way that she's reacting, I would say, like, constitutes like actual stalking and harassment, because she's emailing people, telling them to kill themselves, telling them that their dad hates them, or that they cried when their dad left, that their husband doesn't want the baby that that the woman is pregnant with, and doesn't want any other child. Like, she was nasty. Okay, now, yeah, she's acknowledged in that Amber Preach video that that's something that she needs to work on. But I think for her to be having that much of a big platform, this is, I don't know, this should just be a cautionary tale in not blowing up. Having your platform be somewhat consistent with the level of work you've done on yourself, okay? Like, I would never want to blow up that big, because I don't think I still have a lot of things that I need to heal, that I don't think I could handle that level of scrutiny, okay? And she's crashing out. And look, I do have some sympathy, because it can't be nice to have people dragging you for something as small as using a waste filter. Like, it's ridiculous, really. And I think that it would have been better handled for her to just be like, yeah, I used a waste filter, so what? And then it could have just all been done and dusted. But unfortunately, the way that she responded, people were just like, are you sure you're a clinical psychologist? So now, basically, people in the clinical psychology space are, you know, disseminating her LinkedIn profiles and her accreditations. People have been asking for her, emailing her, asking her to provide her accreditations, because apparently you can't practice clinical psychology without a license. I think it was a huge mistake for her to be lying about this, because you do not need to be a licensed psychologist to be a relationship coach. Nobody asks Matthew Hussey for his credentials. I've never asked Adrienne Everhart. Okay, I loved Adrienne Everhart. I used to listen to her stuff a lot. I never asked her for her certifications, her accreditations. I mean, she did say that I think she was coached by Helena Hart, who was coached by Rory Ray. So that's their lineage that they're from. But I don't, like, even if she hadn't been coached by anyone, her content spoke for itself. She was good. And that's why I listened to her stuff all the time. That's why I bought her book. That's why I paid for one of her courses. And yeah, I didn't care about accreditations. In my space as an oracle, it's not we're not so much about like university accreditations, okay? And I will speak to this whole university accreditation thing, okay? We're more about lineage, and, you know, initiation, okay, being initiated by a mentor, or okay, it's not just in being initiated by a mentor who then, you know, reveals certain hidden wisdom, that you do need to move through different layers of initiation to be able to access. Okay, it's not just the information that the training that we're given, and it's the same with yogic and tantric lineages as well. Everything is not just revealed to you at once. You can't just, people ask me for books and things like that. You can't just, you can get books on Kriya Yoga and stuff like that, but it's definitely better that you study with a master. They're not saying that there aren't issues with lineages, okay? I'll speak to this, okay? Because there have to be certain foundational principles that you need to understand first before you move up to the next level, okay? Otherwise, you're going to get, and this is why we don't just share everything completely freely with everybody, okay? Because you're going to get a lot of people being like, that's not true, that's crazy, that sounds ridiculous, okay? Like, if you read Autobiography of a Yogi, you'll know that there's things that certain of these Kriya yogis and sages and mystics who are very, very highly initiated and had been practicing for decades were able to do, that the average layperson would say is absolutely batshit bonkers, okay? If you read Autobiography of a Yogi, you know, okay? I'm not going to talk about them right now because I assume that many of the people who are watching this video haven't been through certain levels of initiation. So I'm just not going to talk about those things, but I do talk about them in other videos, okay? Initiation is not just about mentorship and lineage, okay? There are initiations are sometimes challenges that you go through in life that you have to move through, because as you move through that challenge and that initiation, basically, you're clearing the way for others, okay? For your lineage, i.e. your ancestral lineage, or the people that you're going to help, okay? If you're a healer or just any kind of way shower. Okay, that's initiation. So the whole you needing university accreditation, I get, like, if you're, you know, talking about psychiatry and mental health and the DSM and personality disorders and things like that, yes, having some licensed accreditation is probably helpful. You know, if I was going to a surgeon and having them cut me open and perform surgery, I would definitely want that person to be licensed and accredited and have gone to medical school and things like that, okay? But that doesn't mean that I don't think that there's any issues with medical schools and with big pharma and stuff like that, okay? If I'm going to a shaman, I want that shaman to come from a safe lineage, ideally an indigenous lineage, you know, of whatever the medicine that they're working with, even though I'm not super into like plant medicines and things like that, but I'm just giving that to you as an example. You don't just want Stacy from next door who just learned how to journey with mushrooms to just give you, I mean, some people have done that, and look, psilocybin is indigenous to here in the British Isles. So if that's part of your soul's templating, Stacy, I don't mean any offense, but there, you know, you do, before, if Stacey wanted to wake up to her templating as a shaman that works with the indigenous plants of this landmass here in the UK, and work with psilocybin and guide others, she should be moving through those initiations first herself, and ideally maybe working with another mentor before she starts holding space for large groups of people, or people that she doesn't know, people who have been who could be working through layers of very intense trauma that she might not be familiar with, people who have entities on them, people who have like deep, maybe sexual trauma that she may not be trained to hold space for, because there are mistakes that you can make in an environment like a shamanic ceremony, where if you don't handle the client with care, you can re-traumatize them and you can do a lot of damage, okay? So her pretending to be a clinical, it's so fraudulent. And, you know, she said in a couple of videos that she wasn't a psychologist. If she wasn't doing relationship coaching, she'd probably be in jail. She'd probably be a drug dealer, because she doesn't have respect for the law. I kind of get where she's coming from, because, you know, a lot of laws that are created by governments are used to protect the powerful from those that have less power. Obviously, we're seeing that international law means absolutely nothing because we've got some rogue Zionist state that are just openly committing genocide, and our rules-based order means absolutely nothing because nobody's been able to stop them and to intervene. And yeah, there are definitely laws that governments put in place that violate natural law, i.e. God's law. So I get where she's coming from. But babes, you are violating God's law, okay, by deceiving people in this way, okay? You might not think that you need to have accreditations, and you might just look down on them, but you're being deceptive, okay? You're not walking in truth and authenticity. There's serious issues with the way that she conducts herself, pretending to be so religious and so Muslim, but yet behind the scenes is doing things that are just completely haram, okay? And I do think a lot of this comes from her upbringing. It sounds like her parents were very strict. She said that she couldn't rebel because, you know, her dad still watches her videos. My dad watches some of my videos. But I rebelled, okay? My dad was pretty strict growing up when I was a teenager. I also wasn't allowed to do very much. And you can bet I rebelled, okay? Those who know me, y'all know my nature is very rebellious, okay? I rebelled against that shit very early on. And my parents basically figured out very early on that they were either going to have to support me or they were going to completely lose me. And they would have completely lost me. But thankfully, we have a pretty good relationship now, and they're very supportive, even if they don't always agree with the path that I'm taking or the things that I'm doing. I would say they've been very supportive. And girl, you gotta break those shackles, okay? You're obviously, I can see that her behavior with this side chick nonsense, that to me is like, that's feels like she's rebelling against some very, because obviously with her background, Islam, it's very, very morally strict, okay? There's a lot of rules about how you're supposed to engage around modesty, around not sexually projecting on other people. And, you know, if you guys have been with me, you know, if you're not new here, you'll know that, you know, since I got into Divine Union and the codes that me and Dom, my soulmate, have been putting out around Divine Union are actually very consistent with a lot of Islamic teachings. I'm starting to realize more and more that now that I'm researching both Islam and Divine Union even deeper, more deeply. There's a lot of parallels, but the difference is with her upbringing and where I'm at right now is it's all being entered into with free will. And because I did go the other way and was very rebellious, you know, just doing what I wanted, raving and staying out all night and engaging in hookup culture, and I was non-monogamous for a while, as I've spoken about in previous videos. And now I'm all about Divine Union. I promote, you know, going on a path of sexual purification in order to align to your divine mission and to your soulmate union. So I went down that path. I rebelled against it kind of because it has to be chosen. When you're in submission to Creator, you choose it. You choose it from devotion to God and God's will, okay? Because you know that being lost was not fun for you. It wasn't fun for me, okay? I went that way and I saw how badly my life went when I wasn't following God, when I wasn't in submission to Creator, okay? So it's not about bringing in these strict rules around modesty or not looking at people who aren't your person, your beloved, your husband or whoever, not you know, lusting after them. It's not about like enforcing, and I think that this is where a lot of people have a negative perception of Islam, because obviously it did spread through so many different countries and became very cultural, that people have this negative perception because they think that this submission is very dominating, very controlling. It's this Yahweh tyrannical father energy. to me, that's not my experience of submission to the one. Submission to the one is fully entered into with free will and devotion to the narrow path. So yeah, I definitely feel like, you know, this whole patriarchal modesty culture, purity culture that is enforced on girls from a really young age who come from more patriarchal backgrounds, it can cause young girls to rebel, and what happens when you kind of keep people in a cage like that, then when they break out of that cage, they flip the other way and they end up losing moral discernment. And I think that that's what Sadia is suffering from with this side chick behavior. I'll play the audio. If I haven't played it already, I'll play it now.
What are you going to do about it? I'll suck your dick if you have an attitude, and I can do it today if I want to.
Go on.
And I can do it on your wedding day and your birthday.
Okay, well, we'll see.
After.
Okay.
I've been in situations where he's been with you in a social setting. He'll call me after.
The main thing I would say to be a high value woman is always you have ability to reject attention.
Hold up. Wait a minute. Something ain't right.
The third step towards becoming a high value woman, and this is genuinely so important, it's self-awareness. Now,
Oh, hell no. Hell no.
only one thing that all women want.
What are you going to do about it? I'll suck your dick if you have an attitude, and I can do it today if I want to.
Go on.
And I can do it on your wedding day.
Yeah, because I just remember growing up, and I wasn't engaging in hookup culture in high school, in secondary school, because, I mean, frankly, my parents were too strict to even let me out of the house. But what I remember is the girls that had the worst reputations, who were doing the most crazy shit, were the girls that were from very strict Christian or Jewish backgrounds. I didn't have a lot of Muslim girls until sixth form in our school. I went to a school that's very, very Jewish growing up. So, and by sixth form, I didn't really know people's business, but like kind of like around 14, 15, when everybody starts like really having like emotional issues, and, you know, everybody's trauma starts coming to the surface with all their growing pains. There were a couple of girls in my school that had a pretty bad reputation when it came to boys, and being a little bit too, spreading it around a little bit too easily. Not to shame them for that, because, you know, we all go through stuff, and they probably had a lot of trauma they were, you know, acting out of. But they did tend to be the girls that were from the strictest religious upbringings, and I think it is because of that purity culture kind of keeps young girls in a cage and really stifles their sexuality. And I don't think that that's the true Sophianic path. I don't think that's the true divine feminine path. I don't think that we're going to really awaken true feminine sovereignty on this planet if we keep women in a cage like that and be like, you must never ever engage with any boys or talk to any boys or explore relationships and dating. And if you're seen with a boy, or if you're, you know, engaged sexually with a boy, you have to marry him. And that, I don't think that girls should be shamed for sex before marriage and things like that. Obviously, ideally, you would only have sex with your divine union, with your soulmate, with your divine counterpart. And if you do engage sexually with anybody who's not your soulmate union, you are actually cheating on them, even if you guys haven't met yet. But let's be realistic. We don't always recognize our soulmates right away. I mean, my soulmate was in another country, and is, you know, 5 years younger than me. So, you know, you can't be stupid about this stuff, okay? So, yeah, like, it's just, you know, you know, adding on to that point, there was like there's a very well-known Catholic school down the road from where I grew up in North London, and those girls had a reputation, and not a good one, okay? So I just think that some of these very, very patriarchal religions have a lot to answer for, because it results in girls then flipping the other way and becoming very, very rebellious and very promiscuous, and losing their way, okay? Purity and, you know, modesty or celibacy and, you know, what's the word? Not celibacy. what's the other word? Abstinence should be entered into with free will, okay? Not because of like cultural pressure and shaming, okay? Let's not do that, okay? And I do feel bad for Sadia, what she's dealing with right now, because even though her side chick behavior is trash and I don't support it, I cannot stand side chicks and women who willingly endorse being side chicks, and I'll explain why I have such a problem with it. I do feel bad for her because, you know, she was just like, can we not make this too public, you know, because like my dad, my brothers, you know, they're obviously they're Pakistani and I can't live. And I'm just like, girl, like that, like, I don't know what she's alluding to, but like, I don't know if you guys are familiar, but honor killings are something that happens in the Indian subcontinent, not just in Pakistan, but in India. All the way, I've heard of them even happening like in Turkey as well, like countries that tend to have like conservative patriarchal. I mean, you could say also like the West, you know, the UK and the US, femicide is a huge issue, okay? So that's also technically like honor killings. But I think honor killings are a little bit more unique, where it's not just like a partner or an ex-partner. That obviously we're going into a really dark topic now, so you can skip past it. I'll put a timestamp if you want to skip past it if you find this topic triggering. It's not just a partner or an ex-partner who will unalive the woman in question who that has dishonored them. Honor killings will be when a father or the men in the family will kill their own sister or their own daughter because she dishonored them by, you know, being promiscuous or being seen with a boy or things like that. I actually did, when I was 14, I did like it was like a school essay. It was like a fictional, for English literature class. And I took a real story from, I think it was Gujarat, about a girl that had been murdered by her own family in an honor killing. And I fictionalized it. And in the story, she'd been accused of consorting with the boy, but in the fiction, nobody had any real evidence. So in the fictionalized story, she was literally just seen talking to him. And, you know, you guys have seen Bridgerton, so you know that this was the thing, you know, in the West as well. Although back then it was, in that show, it was, you know, that they would kill the man, which is a slightly better way of dealing with it. But really, nobody should be killed for this. This is kind of insane. She was just seen talking to this boy, so I fictionalized the story, and I was really nervous to submit it, and because I thought my teacher would find it too heavy or inappropriate for me to be talking about at school, because obviously we're all children. She loved it, and she actually asked me to read it out in front of the class, because she felt like, and I went to an all-girls school. It was a very academic girls' school. She felt like she wanted more girls to be aware of stuff like this that's happening in other parts of the world. I'm not suggesting that the men in Sadia's family would actually unalive her, but I'm just giving you some cultural context. She literally said, like, my brothers, my dad, I can't live. Like, that sounds concerning to me. So, you know, I just pray for her safety. I don't think anybody deserves to be unalived for being a side chick, but I do think it is morally reprehensible. It's really not good behavior, and I don't like how I often see a lot of women defending it by saying it's not the woman that's wrong, it's the man who's made the vows and he's the one that's made the commitment. She's just doing her thing, she should be able to do whatever she wants. And I completely disagree. You are absolutely answerable to the Most High, whether you believe in the Most High or not. You are absolutely answerable under natural moral law for causing harm to others, okay? The amount of pain and trauma that you're causing another woman by doing something like that, you will have to atone for, okay? You will, okay? It's just in the ascension journey, we will have to atone for every single harm that we caused. I've spoken about this in previous videos. Everything that we did that was morally wrong, everything that we failed to do, that we were supposed to do according to moral law in order to reunite with our creator at the end, in the end times, on Judgment Day, whatever you want to call it, we'll have to grieve, we'll have to ask for forgiveness, we'll have to repent, and we'll have to make amends. Okay, so, and Sadia, is as a Muslim, you should know this, unless you just are just fronting and don't actually believe in God, which is certainly possible. It's certainly possible that she's being completely inauthentic because she's battling with this, what's the word? Conflicting identity of who she really is. And yeah, she needs to heal. Like, you need to heal. Like, I don't believe in cancelling people. I don't think she's completely finished. I think that this is obviously a huge scandal and a huge initiation. I do think that she can come back from this, but she's going to have to pivot hard, and she's going to have to come out and make some massive apologies. Maybe she'll probably be fined. She might have to even face criminal charges. She needs to massively apologize to people in her audience. But her clientele is mostly men. So I think a lot of men will still hire her and try to find out how to attract side chicks, maybe even try and recruit her as their side chick. But I do think that if she wants to really atone and, not have to deal with this kind of backlash again, she's going to need to heal from this, and she's going to need to make amends, and she's going to need to apologize. I don't know what else. I feel like there's not that much more that I want to say. I did want to talk about universities and accreditation. Okay. One thing that you do have to understand with universities and accreditation, this is why I don't think that they necessarily need to be prized as highly as they are. I'm not saying that they're completely worthless. Absolutely not. Like, if you're a licensed clinical psychologist, you've obviously been through a very rigorous degree and everything like that. I've been to university, I've done a degree, I did learn stuff from that degree. That it was not in what I'm doing now. I studied architecture. It was very challenging. But if you're doing, obviously architecture is a lot of practical skills. If you're doing a more knowledge-based degree that's like essay writing and learning and things like that, university is such a high-pressure environment. Those of you who've been to university will know this. If you haven't, it's a very high-pressure environment with a lot of deadlines and, big course load, workload to complete in a short space of time. So it can be very, very stressful. There's a lot of cramming involved. So unless that person is approaching their profession and life as a lifelong student that is always seeking knowledge and always keeping up to date on the latest research in their field, the degree can be completely worthless because they might not even remember everything that they learned in the degree. I don't remember a lot of the things that I learned in architecture. Could I design a building right now? Not without a lot of help. I could probably come up with the concept for it, but I don't know if it would stand up. That's not what the course that I did was not very engineering focused. It was very much more creative. I studied at Sheffield University. It is a very good school for architecture. But you would definitely need a structural engineer on your team to make sure that house actually stood up. It's good. That degree is really good if you want to go into something else. Like, I don't want to be talking shit about Sheffield architecture graduates who are still working in architecture, because I don't know what the MA was like. I didn't go back for the MA. It is a very, very good architecture school. And most people, when they study architecture, I know this because my ex is an architect, when they actually enter the real world profession, actual real world professional architecture is completely different from what we learn on my degree anyway. My degree was much more creative and much more artistic than anything I saw my ex doing, or anything I've seen any other architects who I've been friends with doing. Unless it's like very specific. I do know some architects that come from really rich families and they get really nice projects, like really creative, sexy projects. But most architects I know, especially the ones who work for big firms where they're actually getting paid a decent salary, they're like doing like lighting diagrams or like toilet blocks or doing a lot of legal stuff. So accreditations aren't always so important. You're going to be doing so much on the job learning that's really where the real meat and potatoes is. And what else? Yes. Okay, for those of you who are my OGs and who've been with me for a while, universities are actually part of the umbrella of the Jesuit-controlled secret society, New World Order pyramid system. Okay, like, you know, especially those of you who went to American universities, you'll know all those fraternities and all the hazing. Those are all initiations to then get initiated into these basically Freemasonic orders, Order of Skull and Bones and things like that. Okay, they literally recruit from these fraternities and sororities. Okay, so you're literally joining the club. So people's appeals to authority when it comes to accreditations, I find just a little bit nauseating for that reason, because I know what university is. Okay, I went to university, and yeah, I just think that in a lot of ways it is a bit of a scam. Not saying that nobody learns anything useful, okay, and for certain professions I do think it is important, but if you didn't go, I'm just saying that if you didn't go to university, don't feel like you, like, people who are part of that system love to shame and hate on people that are self-educated. Like, and I feel like I can balance both sides of it, because I did go to university. I am university educated, and I'm also self-taught in what I'm doing now. And I would say that the things that I've learned, when I had to do actually more unlearning, I would say I've spent more time unlearning everything that I was taught at school. I went to the best state school in the country. The year that I graduated, my school was voted the best state school in the country. I'm not going to say which one it is, but you guys can look it up. Okay, you can probably find it. And then I went to Sheffield University to study architecture, which was voted top 4 in the world for its architecture degree at the time that I studied. And I don't say this to toot my own horn, not that I'm averse to tooting my own horn. I think you should always toot your own horn whenever you can. But just to say that it doesn't really mean anything. I'm not an architect now. I didn't find it that useful. It's not been helpful for what I'm doing, okay? You guys can do whatever you want. Just don't be a surgeon without going to university. But there's a lot of other professions that are available to you, okay? I wanted to launch a clothing line when after I'd finished uni, and then I started modelling, and I was just like, I know I didn't want to go to architecture school, but obviously coming from the background that I came from, we do prize ourselves for being very academic, you know, that South Asians. And she did speak to this as well. She was just like, I wanted to challenge what she said, actually. I know I'm jumping around a lot, guys. It's just how my brain works. She played the race card, which I really didn't like. She was just like, there's all these other people who have white skin and they never get asked for their accreditations. I'm like, well, a lot of the time, because they don't lie about having them. Like, she's just like, I'm being asked to show my accreditations because I'm brown and a woman. I'm like, no, you're not, sis. Like, everybody knows that South Asians we're known for being very university educated. Like, we're known for being doctors and engineers and pushing our kids really hard to get an education. You know, there's even memes that are shared about it. I'll drop in that Kamala Harris meme. We're known for having very pushy parents, okay? Chinese, Asia, like all across the Asian, you know, subcontinent, all the way to East Asia, we're known for being pushy and high achieving, okay? So it's not because you're a brown woman that you're being asked for your accreditations. It's because you're lying about them, and you know, the way that you conduct yourself is not consistent with how you're presenting yourself. That's what I think anyway. That's my read on it. If she can actually prove that she is accredited, but so far it seems like she can't, okay? There's so many holes in her stories and what she's saying. Where was I going? What was I saying? Yeah, when I wanted to launch a clothing line after I finished uni. I knew that I didn't want to be an architect. I was pushed into it I was encouraged to get a really good degree. Don't go to fashion college, you know, get a proper degree. So I chose architecture, and that kind of fitted me because I was a little bit more creative than some of the girls in my school who mostly all went to study medicine. Yeah, and then I graduated and I was just like, this is not for me. I went and became a model, and then I was just like, I really want to be a fashion designer. I've always been interested in fashion. I've been making my own clothes since I was 15. I was self-taught. I just used to like sit in my studio for hours, just like cutting things up and making them into other cool things. And I was really, really passionate about it. But I just felt like an absolute fraud because I hadn't studied fashion, and I was just like, I need to go. And I actually started making lingerie and putting it online, putting it on Etsy and putting it on these other websites and stuff. And I started actually getting quite a bit of attention. And because I was working in the model industry, I had some fashion industry contacts as well who were noticing the work that I was doing. So I started getting approached by people to stock boutique owners who wanted me to stock my lingerie designs in their boutique. I got scouted by a guy who was starting his own lingerie brand, and he wanted me to design stuff for him. And I completely freaked out. I was just like, I had imposter syndrome. I was just like, oh my God, they're going to find out that I have no idea what I'm doing. So I then went and signed up to study at London College of Fashion, and I did a fashion diploma, which I did not finish. It was a good course, but I did really well. I did the first semester. It was just a 1-year access to fashion, like sandwich course. I'd already finished my architecture degree, but it was like a school leavers sandwiching course to then help you get on to a fashion degree. I did really well. Like, I was performing really well. The tutors were really happy with me, but they were telling me that I should then go and do like a PG certificate in pattern drafting, and that the course would not be sufficient to help me get onto a master's to study. I wanted to actually, my dream was to do a master's at Central St. Martin's. That's like the most prestigious fashion school in the world. I was just being told, just get a PG certificate and, you know, become a pattern drafter. And I was just like, that's not what I want. So I was just like, look, if that's all they think that I'm capable of, I'm just going to go into styling, because I already have industry contacts. I can just pivot into styling from modeling quite easily, and I don't need to deal with this bullshit course. So I just started doing that, and then my modeling career took off, and now I'm doing something completely different. It's interesting the way that the journey takes us. But I had to do all this unlearning around the idea that I wasn't formally trained. I was just like, I'm not formally trained in lingerie design. And look, lingerie design is very, very particular, okay? There's a lot of construction details that you need to learn. Now I could probably do it. If I wanted to do it now, I could probably do it. I probably have enough confidence to do that if I wanted to do that now, without having to go and do like a degree or a master's at De Montfort University. If you're interested in fashion design, lingerie design, look up the contour course at De Montfort University. That's the best one in the country. I probably could do it without having a formal education. I'm not knocking formal education, okay? You guys know that. But I just don't, we place too much emphasis on it. And I don't think that necessarily everyone's path has to be like that, okay? Some of us are more like Leonardo da Vinci, okay? We pull from multiple disciplines that we're good at and bring forth a unique medicine, okay? And the world that we're moving into is going to be more and more like that. It's about you awakening your natural templating that only you can do. Accreditations put people into a box, okay, where they have a title and they're like, I'm a this. And your soul isn't templated in that way. You have a divine mission. You have a divine purpose that only you can fulfill. Life is all about helping you unlock it. So, you know, I hope that Sadia can reflect on some of these things, and she doesn't need an accreditation. Sorry, my battery died. That's why the lighting looks slightly different. I don't think she personally needs the accreditations that she has been thinking that she does. She probably has a case of imposter syndrome and a lot of really, really deep ancestral trauma that she needs to heal. This is not to justify her behavior. I definitely don't endorse side chick behavior. I think it's awful. I've actually been through something, like I have massive sympathy for the fiance that posted that video, because the way that Sadia was just ripping into her and just acting like just a like a Lilith, to be honest. Okay, we discussed this in episode 10. Okay, and this is obviously the subject of the webinar that's coming up. This kind of competitive spirit that'll have you competing with other women. Okay, the true divine feminine, Sophianic feminine, does not need to be in competition. Okay, because the true divine feminine is so multifaceted. You know, they talk about how the feminine is men need variety, right? Well, that's because the feminine is all things. Okay, she's all of manifested reality. She's the wild woman, and also the maiden, and also the queen, and the mother, and the crone, and she's all these things, right? So you never really need to be in competition with other women, certainly not for a man, not for your own soulmate, okay? You're literally templated perfectly to match your own soulmate, like a lock and a key fit together. So this whole idea that you have to compete with other women, she probably feels entitled to do what she did with that woman's man, because, you know, some of the things that she said in some of her comments were like, if you let yourself go as a woman, you know, you can't blame it if your man cheats on you. She gives herself away. She's also spoken about side chick behavior. That side chick behavior, usually women that have such bad trust issues when it comes to men, that they feel more comfortable being a side chick, because as soon as they have the man all to themselves, then they start freaking out because they just assume that he has another side chick now. Whereas at least if she knows that she's the side chick, then she can feel safe that she always knows where the other woman is. And she's literally said that, like, if I can find it, I'll drop it in. If I can't find it, you guys will put, you know, maybe you've heard her say it. She's definitely said that. And she's also, and this is one thing that I did like about her, that she has talked about how, you know, her issues in relationships. You know, she'll talk about her relationship, but she'll say, you know, oh, I'm crazy, and, you know, I'm so jealous, I'm insecure. And she would admit to that. And I did like that about her. I respected that about her, because I don't think, believe that those of us who are guiding others in, you know, personal development or coaching or mental health support or psychology or psychiatry or healing or quantum healing or whatever it is, just helping people with their lives, with their love lives specifically, we should be authentic. Okay, y'all know, you know, I'll bring my person onto this so that you can see that I have one. Okay, because I've seen that there are some people in this space will pretend to have a husband or a wife, and they don't, or they'll talk about their partner, but meanwhile their partner is always being switched out for a different partner because they're not bringing the person front and center. You can't see who their partner is. like I'm pretty certain that a lot of people in the space are actually inventing that they have partners. So not just that, but also I want you guys to know that things are not just always sunshine and rainbows when you're in divine union, even when you find your soulmate. Everything unhealed comes to the surface, okay? Me and Tom have had to move through immense challenges together in our first year. And everyone who I have followed who teaches divine union has also maintained that, which I, you know, respect that transparency. And I think that we need to continue to maintain that authenticity and that transparency. Not just talking about the fact that there are challenges, but specifically what those challenges are, because the challenges that you move through as a couple is your medicine that you're here to help others move through as you move through them. So when me and Dom are ready to talk about what we've been moving through, we will. And yeah, we hope that it provides, you know, support for everybody moving through the same issues. But just speaking to the accreditation thing, I don't think she necessarily needs it. I think she's been being deeply initiated right now. She's being massively challenged. Obviously, I'm sure she's going through a lot of turmoil right now and a lot of stress and anxiety, you know, potentially losing her entire career and completely losing credibility. Do I think that she can turn this around? I think it's certainly possible that she can turn this around, okay? Derek Jackson is still coaching. I thought he would be completely cancelled when it emerged that he was cheating on his wife. I think the Derek Jackson scandal was it worse? I think the Derek Jackson, for me personally, I feel like the Derek Jackson scandal was worse than this. But this is also very bad. Like, and she needs to acknowledge that. I think she needs to do a hard pivot and maybe move away from some of this posturing and needing to pretend that she's someone that she's not, and just start being really authentic and, you know, just rebrand herself as like the side chick in recovery, and how to recover from being a side chick, and how to heal that wound specifically, how to heal imposter syndrome, how to heal the need for accreditation, how to heal the fact that she seems to be a pathological liar. Can she move from being a pathological liar to being really open and honest and transparent and authentic with the world now that everything has imploded in her face? It's only possible she can turn it around. I do like to believe in redemption for everyone. Maybe not everyone, maybe not like Benjamin Netanyahu. But who knows? I could even be wrong about that, but probably not. Like, he can go to hell, and he will probably spend thousands of years in hell paying for what he's done. And what he continues to do. And it's not just him, obviously, it's everybody in the whole Zionist settler colony who's probably going to spend thousands of years in hell. And, you know, we'll all have to pay for all the things that we did to violate others. Sadia has probably left that woman with severe trust issues. I know that after this happened to me twice, okay? I had an intense betrayal trauma that happened to me when I was 25, 26 with a very serious boyfriend. And I found out that he was cheating on me with multiple women. And three of them I confronted. One of them was really cool. She was really nice. She had no idea. She was shocked. She felt sick. She even like started flirting with me after she found out. She was into women as well. And yeah, we ended up kind of becoming not friends, but we spoke quite a few times after that. And yeah, she was cool. But the other two behaved like Sadia. And that was extremely traumatic for my spirit to, like, I was not expecting that from another woman. Like, I really thought that they didn't know. And then the second time was the person that I recently broke up with a year ago, just before I got together with Dom. And yeah, I was with this person for 6 years, thought he was loyal, thought he was honest, trusted him. And yeah, found out he was also cheating on me with multiple women. And it was interesting because some of the women, as I said in episode 10, some of the women were actually like tantra teachers and like yoga girls from Bali, and like I think one was like a confidence coach as well. And I was just like, are you kidding me? You are. So when I saw this about Sadia, I was just like, right, this is hitting kind of close to home. And I wasn't surprised either, because I've seen this before. Okay, I was shocked at the time. I was like, you really out here teaching people how to be confident and how to know their worth when you're sexting with a man who's taken, knowing that he's taken, and he's not your boyfriend. Like, come on, like, do better for yourself, and do better for the rest of the feminine collective. Like, obviously these girls are not girls. I mean, Sadia doesn't pretend to be a girl. She's definitely not feminist, which is fine. I also have an issue with a lot of the feminist rhetoric. I think a lot of it is used as a dog whistle to try and beat women into submission and make them align with whatever you think they should align with. Yeah, I can give so many examples, but I don't want to veer too far off topic right now. But yeah, it's really, really trash behavior. And yeah, I'm glad that she's being held accountable. But I also do want to see how she navigates this, and whether she disappears from the public or whether she is able to kind of turn it around and pivot and, yeah, like do some kind of redemption arc. Will be interesting to see. Oh, yes. And there was one final point that was actually, I actually forgot to say, but it was the most important point because it was the thing that got me really fired up about this video. That it's the only note I made, and I forgot to say it. She said this in an interview.
fulfilling relationships are where two people are matched on their level of attractiveness. The problem is unattractive people don't want to accept their match. They'll say things like, the guys I like they're just married or gone, or the ones that like me, I don't like them. Well, that's your level. If that's what's coming to you, that is your level. You won't believe it. Like, I'll get guys in the middle of India being like, I'm madly in love with this blonde Russian woman and I know she wants me. I'm like, I'm so sorry, Sanjay, but it's very unlikely that this Tatiana is in love with you. Like, accept it. But they're like, I don't like Indian women. I'm like, but I'm so sorry. I'm a Pakistani woman. I know my appeal is limited. I don't have the same appeal as a Brazilian woman, and I never will.
Like, girl, what the fuck? Speak for yourself. Like, don't include the rest of us in your own internalized racism that you have towards yourself. Like, firstly, Sadia Khan is a beautiful woman, okay? I will say that. Objectively, she is, and everybody has said that. Even the people who are dragging her and who can't stand her all acknowledge that she's a beautiful woman. Don't be trying to act like us Pakistanis are not as hot as any other group, any other demographics. I'm sorry, that's just not true. I've never felt like that about myself. We have some of the best models in the world. Obviously, Brazilians dominated they have a reputation. They dominated the industry. The Brazilian supermodels dominated the industry in the supermodel era of the 90s, okay, and the early noughties as well. Gisele Bündchen and all, you know, Adriana Lima and all the Victoria's Secret girls. You're probably not going to see many Pakistani models doing Victoria's Secret because most of them happen to be Muslim, okay. And I know I've tried to place some of our best talent with agencies in Europe, and there are obstacles to placing models who are Muslim with European agencies because European agencies usually want to see models in swimwear, and Muslim girls will not do that, okay? They won't do swimwear. So, you know, Indian models are smashing it right now, okay? And for the last, I would say even the last almost 10 years, but the last 5 years, we've seen a lot of Indian girls and boys doing really, really well on international fashion runways. So I reject this racist ideology. This really, really pissed me off, to the point where I was just like gonna hit up all my friends from the industry, the South Asian industry in Pakistan, both Pakistan and India, and be like, can I please post a picture of you in my YouTube video? Because obviously we don't get a lot of mainstream representation, but we do have some of the best looking models in the world. And when I was modeling in India, not so much in Pakistan because you don't really tend to get, it's not so much of a market that international models will travel to, even though our fashion industry is amazing. We have some of the best couture I've ever modeled in my life. I'll see if I can include something from my modeling days there. Yeah, in India we had a lot of Brazilian models coming there to work. Why? Because they look like us. They look just like us. They're very similar genetic admixture, okay? Brazilians are a combination of indigenous South American, European, Spanish colonial, and Black African, okay? That's their genetic admixture. And the Indian subcontinent is also similar genetic admixture. We have Andaman. Like, I'll see if I can drop in this clip from Ancestral Brew. I'll see if there's if I can composite it, if he's put a Creative Commons license. If not, I'll put a link. And you can go and see the genetic admixture of either Pakistanis or Indians, because we're kind of pretty much the same people, okay? There's a lot of crossover. Obviously, we have different ethnicities within both countries, but there's a lot of crossover because it was the same country at one point. So, yeah, trying to make out that we're not as hot as Russians, fuck off. Like, seriously, Sadia, sort out your shit. Like, I am going to be fierce, okay? Because I'm not, like, don't be dragging everyone from your country and perpetuating this idea that we're not attractive people, okay? Because it's not true. We're just as good looking as anyone else, okay? Our boys and our girls. And yeah, we have to deal with enough racist bullshit. For somebody who keeps on playing the race card like she does, I don't like that she said this, okay? We have to deal with enough racist bullshit trying to paint us as terrorists from outside and mainstream media. We don't need you perpetuating the idea that we're not as hot as Russians or Brazilians, okay? It's just not true. Heal, please, Sadia. Okay, she's from Kashmir as well. Okay, obviously I know that that region's seen a lot of conflict. That's maybe explains some of the ancestral trauma. Obviously I don't want to put it all on that, but I understand as somebody who's from, my ancestors were from Punjab, that's also a area that's seen a lot of conflict as well. So I also have a lot of ancestral trauma. So it's just a thing that happens, you know, when you've had ancestral trauma. You have a lot more stuff that you need to purge and purify. Please heal, babes. Okay, heal your internalized racism towards yourself. You're a beautiful woman. You're just as beautiful as any other woman from any other background. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. With that, I will love you and leave you guys. If you want to join the Lilith webinar, okay, we are definitely going to be talking about some of these parallel themes in the Lilith webinar. Okay, check out I talk about it in episode 10. I talk about it in episode 13. I could slightly touch on it in episode 14 as well. All the information that you need is in the description box below. If you want to book sessions with me, there's a link in the description box below. Thanks for tuning in, guys. If you're still with me, thank you for your attention, and I will see you in the next episode. Leave me your thoughts in the comment box below as well. I'd love to hear from you guys. Bye.